Guys, my name is SLA Max Ayimeri. I'm the head coach of Co City United. Welcome to Coach's Corner with Football Epistle.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Football Epistle. So this year we're starting a new series called the Coach's Corner, where we'll be sitting with coaches to talk about their perspective about the game, how they manage players, and a whole lot that goes on the touchline. So here with me today we have a young coach who I call a tactician. He's somebody that if you sit and interact with him, you would love to work with him. Yeah, so he's very good with player management. He has worked with teams such as Juventus in Abuja. He has worked with a team called JP Morgan in Abuja. He also worked with the famous Kenneth Omero Academy in Abuja. And currently he is with Co City United in Abuja. So hello coach, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
It's good to be on your platform. I've been a fan of your program. I've watched a couple of episodes on Instagram and YouTube. So yeah, it's beautiful to be here.
Thank you. So I want to hear from you. How did you end up becoming a coach?
Do you want the long version or the short version? Because it's a mixture of everything. But yeah, let me start from somewhere.
Yeah.
So first of all, I grew up in a family that loves football. My dad is a big football guy. I would say I was lucky because, like I said, I fell in love with football quite early. And there was this team around me. I can't remember the name. I think the name is something like, it used to be like a grassroots team around me that I used to go and train with. So I used to train there. Then the coach became inconsistent. So I had no choice of being one of, should I say, the senior players. I had to step into the role of coaching. So I started coaching. That should be like 08, 09, fresh out of secondary school.
Wow.
So yeah,
that was early.
Yeah, very early. So I had to step into the role and become like the assistant coach. Because when the coach goes away, I have to then. So you just normal, just do a little bit of warm up. Then I just divide it. It was nothing really coaching. Then I got into it. I started thinking about the programs. So I started being more intentional about thinking about the programs to do, whatnot. So that's how my early days in getting into it. But it became a little bit serious because the coach backed off. So that was after I finished university. So even in my university days, I got to 100 level. I didn't really do anything in football.
Yeah.
On my 200 level, I got into my team's departmental team. I became the assistant coach there.
Wow.
So I was working with my mate, Mr. Sam. So he used to be the first team. Then I was the assistant coach. So I used to work with him there to all through my university days. And I had a friend. I always give him his flowers, Jaffet, who just keep telling me that I'm supposed to be coaching. So he used to take me to go and coach his own team. He was in law department, so like that. So when I finished university, I went to NYSC in Ekiti. So now local government, I became the coach but that one because of injury. So I got injured. So I had no choice but to become the coach again. So I started there. I was the coach of my local government, the coppers there. So I was the coach. And after that, when I finished from NYSC and 2015, I go back to Abuja, I became automatically the head coach of that local grassroots team coach around me. So I was working there as a coach, no payment, no nothing. It was just something I did out of fun. And again, my interest has grown. So I was more into it. I was becoming more intentional about the programs and what I wanted them to do.
Yeah.
Then what happened, what sparked it all was that there's a team that trained in the morning, Grandpa Professionals.
Yeah.
And there was this Coach Emeka Ene, who took interest in me. To be honest, I don't up to now, I have no idea why he took interest in me. So I used to see him come around in the evening, watch my training sessions. So after a while, he invited me to come and be his assistant, or just come.
Wow.
And then from there, he went. I was working with him, and then the current coach of Rivers United, Coach Yaman.
Yeah.
He used to be his assistant there. So I was like the curator. I used to carry the codes around, help them set up, and just used to listen to them. So that was my first early interaction with professional coaches, and then understanding the game, and then they built my game intelligence, and I just from there continue. 2019 after COVID, 2019 COVID. I know after COVID I moved back to Abuja and then started working with Coach Emeka again, and then he told me I should take it more serious. We put together. Earlier than that, he even forced me to go and do my NIS.
Yeah.
NIS. Forced me to go and do my NIS. So I did my NIS. When I moved back, I was the same. So he got me to take it more serious. Then the opportunity to coach Kenneth Omero's academy came up, and I took it. I was working there briefly before I now got another job with Juventus Nigeria. From there, just just took off. The Juventus Nigeria was like the main place I went to, and then you could tell that coaching was beyond what I've been seeing in the grassroots. There was a methodology behind it. I had to work on my coaching intervention, so it became more professional, more intense, and I enjoyed like that period. Like I met the head coach of Juventus Nigeria, Coach Mohamed Yusuf, who completely changed the perspective of how I looked at football coaching, and that was basically my introduction to coaching and how I just went from heights and I just kept going.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is powerful.
Short version.
Yeah, he's not trying to
let's compress it, but that's my journey.
Understand.
Yeah.
Now that we have understood your background, I feel like the next thing we should talk about is your philosophy and your style of play.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know it's vital for every coach out there.
Yeah, it's very important for a coach to have an idea. So one of the things I would say is that as a coach, you are supposed to have an idea. If you close your eyes in the middle of the night, or they wake you up early in the morning, you should know how your team should play in every 5 phases of the game.
Yeah.
So there are 5 phases of the game: in possession, out of possession. Then we have the transition moment, defense to attack, attack to defense. Then we have set piece. So in those 5 moments, you should have an idea of how your team wants to play. And then as a coach, you should also have your individual philosophies of how you see coaching. So for example, I believe that football, and these beliefs are not my own, to be honest. There's nothing new under the sun, but I am of the school of thought that first of all that football is first of all 70% human relationship. So you as a coach, how do you relate to your players? The remaining 30% is tactics, and even that tactics, again, I'm in the school of thought that tactics is just basically player traits and player behavior.
Yeah.
So how do you influence those players? You just use the word tactics to influence their behavior. So 70% human relationship and 30% tactical work and whatnot. Then the other part of my philosophy is how you coaching intervention. So coaching intervention is like how do you get players to buy into what you are doing or how you are coaching them. If you want more better definition, I'll ask you to Google what coaching intervention is. But yeah, coaching intervention. So there's so many styles. There's command style. That means you get the players, hey, you be here, do this, blah, blah, blah. Then you have demonstrative, by demonstrating the actions you want them to do.
Yeah.
Then you have one I 100% resonate with, which is guided discovery. So that means you guide the person into discovering what you want them to do in the first place.
Yeah.
So take, for example, I want the player to pass the ball with more intensity. So he passes the first time and I ask him, so this pass, do you think the player can intercept it? And he says yes. So that's what you want to do. He says no, you have to put more weight behind the pass. So at that moment, that coaching intervention is called guided discovery, and that is one of the things I resonate to me is the core of how I want to coach. So it doesn't mean that I don't use the command, doesn't mean I don't use demonstrative, doesn't mean I don't use other coaching intervention, but I resonate with guided discovery, and that's how I want to work. And the next thing about my philosophy is I like constraint. So I believe that you can coach players or you can improve players by using constraint. So what's constraint-based training is using constraints to force certain traits or certain behavior in your team and even in individuals. So I'm a big believer in using constraints to coach players. So that is about my coaching. And the next thing about my coaching or my philosophy is highly technical based. So I try to get every exercise with whether warm up, fitness, whatnot, to be ball oriented. So you have to use the ball to develop their technical skills, their fitness skills. So very important part of me is that my philosophy is technical because I like to use the ball in every facet of my training sessions. About my playing style. So first of all, on should I say on use the right word? Like the basic of it, we want to be maximizing space when we have the ball. So we want to make the pitch big when we have the ball, and when we are without the ball, we want to make the pitch small. On the basis of that, like I said, in every 5 aspects of the game, we want to be dominant. So in possession, can we be dynamic, can we keep the ball, but don't just keeping the ball for keeping the ball sake, but to be progressive, to be very, very vertical.
Yeah.
To be honest, I want my teams to be very, very vertical. Then aside that, we want to keep the ball, yes, want to pass the ball, but not just for sake, but to move the opponent so that we can create space. Out of possession is very, very important to me. We want to be dominant, like I said, but we want to be intense. We want to lose the ball. When we lose the ball, can we win the ball in less than 8 seconds?
Yeah.
After we win the ball, can we try and get a shot on target in 10 seconds? So out of possession is very important to me. Then we have the transition situation, defense to attack. So can we go from defense to attack? Again, it's not about specific things like just counter attacking. We go from defensive, we are defending, now we are attacking. No, it's not about counter attacking, but Can we do it in the right moment? So do we win the ball? When we just won the ball, when we won the ball, is it conducive to counter attack? Do we need a safe path out of pressure to keep the ball?
Yeah.
Then again, in that same moment, we won the ball. Is there space to counter attack? So very important aspect in that. Then we have attacking to defensive. So you just lost the ball. Do you want to press the ball in that moment? Very important. Now I like my teams to press, to be intense when they are pressing. So we lost the ball. Can we press the ball? Again, is it the right moment? So if you lose the ball in the opponent's half, I'm incentivizing my team to press in that moment because you are closer to the goal. If you win the ball, we can take that intensity into the counter attack and score. I don't know that you understand me. Then again, we do win the ball in our own half, and in our own half, we want to be careful because we don't want to lose the ball. So we win the ball in our own half. Can we find the ball out of the pressure? Then we can decide whether we want to build up or want to go for the counter attack. So we have to have those moments. Then the final part is set piece. A set piece is very important now for those of us that are watching modern football, especially in the Premiership. Or now, set piece is important. Now I know that the stats should be high, but when last I checked, 30% of goals is by set piece. So as a coach, you should ask yourself, what aspects, how in my coaching plan, how do I allocate for? So if 30% of the goals are being scored by set piece, should you give 30% of your training sessions to training set piece? As a coach, you should ask yourself all these questions. So that is the brief again of how I want my teams to play in those moments. So like I said, I want my teams to be very dominant in all 5 phases, to play with intensity. Then another part is verticality. I want my teams to be very vertical. Then another thing that is important is that how my teams play is that we always want to stretch the last line of defense. So whether it's a back 4, whether it's a back 5, we want to stretch it out to create spaces in between. So the other part of my game or my team's style of play is that I want to constantly create space, whether space in behind or space within the team, to find pockets of space to create. And the final thing is that, like I said, out of possession is important. So against the ball phase is very important. So if you want to counter attack, I love my teams to counter press. So we are counter pressing. School of thought is always put pressure on the ball. So then another part is in the final third, I would say is pressing traps. So what do I mean by pressing traps? So it's impossible, just based on human nature, to press for 90 minutes. It will expend a lot of energy. So we have to choose our moments. We have to pick our moments. A pressing trap comes in. So in certain moments of the game, for example, maybe goal kicks or throw-ins, we want to say, okay, are we playing against a team that wants to press high? Are we playing against a mid block? Are we playing against a low block? So we now organize our press in that sense. So take, for example, we are playing a team that wants to do a mid block. So they are not going to press us immediately. We build up play. So how am I going to set up my press in that moment? So do I wait for them and then we force them wide, then become aggressive in that moment, or do I invite them into the center of the pitch and then press them because we have more numbers in that moment? So all these are how my team wants to play. So I can sit down here and go long on how we want to do in every moment of the game. But like I said, what is important is we want to be dominant in all 5 phases of the game. We want to counter press. We want to be vertical. We want to disrupt by creating space. We want to disrupt also by stretching the last line of the opponent's defense. And then we want to use our pressing traps and counter press at the right moment.
This is impactful. Honestly. Okay, moving from your philosophical point of view. Now let's talk about a practical aspect now.
Okay.
So now, how do you bring out the best in your players with everything you just said now? You know, it's going to be a whole lot of work because you're working with young players. So how do you work with players to bring out the best in them, both physically and psychologically as a coach?
Okay, so one of the things I would say is, as a coach, the first thing you should always do is you have to be prepared. So it stems from how you plan your sessions. So for example, me, I like to work in micro sections. So there's this school of thought that I'm part of, I follow. It's tactical prioritization. So, but me, at this my level, I'm not exposed to the highest level. But this my level, I like to work in micro sessions. So my coaching plans are always in blocks of 6 weeks. So in 6 weeks, I'll set up for physical work, mental work, then technical work, and also tactical work. Then another thing that is neglected in this part of the world is social social work, which is like your social interaction.
Yeah.
Players interacting themselves and then also interacting with their teammates and their coaches,
Yeah.
building their social skills. So something I try to put into perspective in my training session. So again, like I said, each week we'll have a team. So take for example this week we might be looking at in the physical aspect, we might be looking at endurance work.
Yeah.
Then in the tactical work, we might be looking at pressing.
Yeah.
Or then in the technical work, we might just be looking at short to medium passes and then receiving on the back foot.
Yeah.
So I'll think like that. Then I'll work in 6 weeks to aid player development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So talking about player development structures.
Yeah.
Now, like I'm curious. I want to really know what's the difference between a football team and an academy.
Okay. So I'm going to use real life.
Yeah.
For our viewers, so for them to properly understand what I'm talking about. So I'm not speaking like in big jargons. But what I want you to understand is just like a kid go to school.
Yeah.
So academy is meant to be the foundation part. It's meant to be where you go to learn your trade.
Yeah.
So again, in Nigeria we don't have, or in Africa, but things are changing. But in Africa, we're meant to start really early. So under 5, under 7, under 8, U11, U12, U13, 15, 16, 17. Then U19, then the football part, which is the football team, is supposed to start from the U19.
Yeah.
So that means you're now a professional to an extent. So in the academy phase, you are looking at learning.
Yeah.
The goal is not winning matches. The goal is development. So you're looking at the goal is development. So you're not, as a coach, you're not meant to be thinking about just winning the game. But winning the game is an aspect, but you're supposed to focus on development.
You said the goal is not winning.
Not winning matches.
But I see coaches like shouting at players at the under 13 level, probably because they lost the game.
It's their priorities. So at that level, you are not meant to. For example, when I worked again, like that's why I said my perspective changed.
Yeah.
When I went to Juventus Nigeria, and when I worked under Coach Mohamed Yusuf, changed my perspective on coaching. So one of the things I learned is that winning is just an aspect. It's not the holistic part. Again, the academy level, especially from U15 downwards. And you're supposed to look at, as a coach, you're going to, when I was going into matches, I will look at what are the 5 things. If my fullback or my attacker or my midfielders can do five good things in the match, that is development. That's what we are looking at in academy phase. Yeah. So, for example, I have a midfielder. Is he scanning? Is he checking? How is his perception?
Wow.
And is technically, how is his receiving? Is he receiving cleanly?
Yeah.
Then mentally, is his work rate? Is he anticipating better? Is he seeing spaces better? Then you're looking at the physical aspect, which is again at the academy phase not supposed to be on top of your distant boy. How is he running? Is he running with the right mechanics? Is he sprinting with the right mechanics? How is his endurance? How is his work rate? How is his jump rate? So all these are what we prioritize in the academy phase, not the outcome. If your team wins, fine and good is an important phase. But in the academy phase, you are looking at development. It's meant to be the priority. But when you now go to the football clubs, that's when you prioritize winning games. So from U16, U17, you are now looking at, oh wow, should I be winning games? How are we winning games? Are we winning games with good gameplay, or we are just good sports, we're just kicking long balls and we are winning games? So yes, that's when winning games become more important. So academy is where you are meant to learn, and then when you are going into football club, you are meant to be you are going to say that you are going to be a specialist in your field. Yeah. Again, in academy phase, or like I said, my perspective changed in Juventus Nigeria was you learn that at academy phase from U13, U12, U11, those players are meant to play multiple positions to train their intelligence, so that they become more intelligent footballers. Yeah. And so if you have a number 9, you take him and go and play as a centre back, or you play him as a midfielder. He is improving. So when he now begins to be more empathic with his defenders, he knows, okay, the defender, if he doesn't play the pass, he might understand why. And in certain moments, he might know, okay, my body orientation should be in this certain moment to receive, because he knows the defender is going to break lines to get to the ball. So again, it improves their game.
I think this is common in Europe because we've heard stories of players like, for example, now McTominay, where that he has played CF, where people that they are doing well now in certain positions, but they played other positions. I think Arnold was a midfielder.
Yes.
So
for example, now let me use Shemana as a good example. His academy phase was a defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
So, but maybe when he was breaking into the first team, they realized that he might not. So many players in that position, and he might not be able to get game time. So they put him as a right back. But now, for those of us that are into football and see football, even he played at right back for Liverpool, but majority of the time he was moving infield as an inverted fullback. So again, to bring about his specialism, which is playing in center of the pitch. He was not a wide fullback in that sense. So again, you can see that the development phase played into his development as a player.
Wow, this is profound. Now, with all you've said, I just struggle to understand why we are not producing talent in Nigerian academies anymore. Because honestly, based on what you've said, I think we've shifted the focus to result based. Because I want to ask, why are we struggling to produce talent now in our academies in Nigeria?
Okay, so the first thing I want to emphasize, I want people to understand is, with or without coaches, or with or without academies, players are going to develop.
Okay.
Do you understand me? So the kids that are playing street football, go and watch them. So coaches will know concepts of the third man or juniors or different coaching philosophy. It will happen with or without coaches. Players will find solutions in game. So it's not about that. Now, I think if I want to rephrase your question, why are Nigerians not developing players intentionally? As a country, and it's because of our structure. So, for example, we do not have a national youth league where you can say U13, U12 are playing a league. What you have is now you have a lot of private leagues going on. For example, in Lagos, you have the TCC. In Abuja, on our own side, we have the Elite League.
Yes.
So there's no structure. In Abuja, we also have Kids League for the U13, but it's not structured. It's not in cognizance with the NFF. And then, for example, we have countries like Spain and Germany who have a national developmental plan. I don't think we have any of those in Nigeria, where you actively have a setup of what kind of players we as a country want to develop. We don't have all those kind of things, and then again we forget that. Let me use real life. Your schools, if you want better students, you want to produce better students, you want to produce better physics, better doctors, you have to have better what?
Employ quality teachers.
We don't have a structured how will I say this now? Coaching developmental plan. So how are we developing our coaches? What are our coaches learning? So what are they learning to go and impact on the players? We have to have that pipeline for you to be actively able to develop talent. So this is what is missing in our ecosystem. I don't know if you're following me.
Yes.
Then the NFF can come in to peg academies and say, okay, we have, for example, in England, we have Cat 1 academies, Cat 2, Cat 3. So we have to have a level so that there's a framework of, okay, you develop this player to this level, then you hand over to go to the next level. So all these are missing in our ecosystem to really develop players.
Wow, because I think last week I was reading about the Moroccans' philosophy. Again, and I found out that their own NFF, they had this structure that, okay, from the U12 to the 19 or 20, this is how we play. And that's why you see that for the past 3 years, I think most of the guys that played under 20 World Cup in Morocco and that Olympic, they are not playing with the national team. And when they come, they blend in easily. Because of what you just spoke about now, they have a structure that everybody works with in the whole country. And I also heard that when the senior team in Morocco comes back for national team or friendly games, then at 12 to 20, they play their own friendly games. So like they're not used to each other. But I think in our country here, at 120, they only meet for maybe AFCON qualifiers or World qualifiers, but they don't play together as a team to get to know each other. Or
to be honest, they do hold like small camps, but not like as extensive as the Moroccans or other Western world.
Senegal too.
Yeah, Senegal, Gambia, to be honest, and other countries. Again, it's organization. In Nigeria, it's not only just in the footballing aspect, it's the anyhowness we have imbibed into our culture as Nigerians. We just do things anyhow. So the reason why Morocco can do that is because they have I've forgotten what they call their own. They have a national camp, just like England have St. George's Park. They have something like that in Nigeria. We do not have. For example, in Abuja, we only have a FIFA Goal Project and Area 3. Those are the ones and then Buhari. So again, how are we scouting players for the national team for this age grade? Do we have a U13? Do we have a U12 in Nigeria? I know we have a U15, and I'm not sure whether we have a U12 or U13. So how are we putting up players? And do we have a pathway? Do we have a plan So then this, if you look at those Moroccan FA, you look at the English FA, German FA, Spanish FA, they have a pathway. They go to the extent of even checking up with the players when they are with their clubs.
Yeah.
No, we don't do that in Nigeria. I don't think we do that in Nigeria. Then they have they have a way of a philosophy of how they want to play as a country. I don't think we have that. That's why you go to you look at Spain. They produce the exact kind of players.
Yeah.
They fit into a specific style of football, down to the attackers, down to whoever they are producing. So to do that, we have to come back and have a structure. And we do not lack. Again, I want to remind Nigerians and the viewers that we do not lack personalities or people that have these ideas or these visions to implement this thing. I don't know whether he's still working with Saudi Arabia FA. We have an alumni that works with the Saudi Arabia FA. These are people that can do that. We have Sheyi Olafinjana with Chelsea, the head of scouting in Africa.
Yeah.
So we have people that can do this. We have the head coach of Beyond Limit. We have people that have the ideas and that can come together and implement this structure. It's left for the NFF and it's left for the FA chairman to decide that, oh wow, we need to organize our house and then put this into play.
Wow, this is huge. Yeah, I just pray, and if the NFF personnel are watching, I just hope they can do something about it, because I feel like